Oh, it is good to be back.
I just love, yes, it is good to be back. And I just love how Pisces season, like, always inspires me and, like, it brings me back to astrology. I feel like always, like, it just makes astrology so much more interesting and stimulating. And I'm
Right.
like always jazzed. Um,
Yeah, it's a leaning in energy for sure.
mhm.
Folks, welcome back. As you maybe have noticed, this is going to be a 2 episode week in a classic Pisces energy way. Don't ask. I'm not making excuses. It's Pisces season. But truly there were things out of our control as to why this episode is late. It's like Mercury's retrograding earlier than she's supposed to. But
It's all good.
thanks for sticking with us, folks, especially in Pisces season. Things are a little topsy turvy.
Yeah.
Emotions, ebbs and flows are a little more radical. There's just big energy. We've got a big astrological reset and new year approaching. So it just always makes sense that this Pisces time can feel very, if that
Yep.
makes sense.
Yep.
It's just
Yep.
how it
Yep.
is. But I've
It's
been
just
leaning
how
in,
it is.
Heather. I have been leaning
Yeah.
in.
Me too. Me
That's all you can
too.
do.
And I feel like the collective humanity is leaning in a larger way. Like, God, I was so excited to talk to you about how I feel like everywhere I look, every time I turn on YouTube, there's a celebrity singing a song about astrology or talking about it in an interview. I was
Right.
telling Miranda before we started recording that I just watched this Ariana Grande interview where she talked about her Saturn return ad nauseum, and the interviewer was like, "Yes, this is how it works," and I was like, "Ah." And
Yes,
it's just really
and
exciting
this is how it
because,
works. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no, yeah,
I was
yes,
making a
and
yes and
and
say that shit with your chest. I'm a
as I
little
whisper,
mouse. Yeah,
yeah.
I'm just a little mouse, but I'm gonna say that shit with my. I'm just all right, go on.
I know it's so funny. Um, no, and then I also had this moment on Reddit this week where I was reading about the Pluto and Scorpio generation, which we all are. I could look up like the exact years, but basically if you're around our age, approaching your or in your Saturn return, like in your 30s, a millennial. I think most millennials are Pluto and Scorpio babies.
Right.
And it really feels like we are the ones bringing astrology into the mainstream, which is like very Scorpio. And but I was reading about it, and it's because, we I think that like our Pluto and Scorpio generation is now like coming into power as we are becoming adults, and we like have more influence over society and shit. And it was saying like, yeah, Pluto and Scorpio, I think like is bringing sexuality to the forefront and themes of that, and also just like, yeah, astrology. And I don't know, it's interesting to talk about. I wanted to talk about it with you.
Well, and this like our generations. Yes, Heather. First of all, that is such an interesting way you just put that. I want to say before I tangent away, I love how you were like we're like reaching adult status or like we're more involved in society now in ways of more power or more control, just more say, a little
Yeah,
more
I think we have an
exactly.
influence now. Yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't put that together of like, oh yeah, our generation's finally getting to an age where it's like you don't really have a choice to take us seriously anymore because like we're here now in
Yeah.
the and like having kids. Like our generation is like getting old enough now that we're parents. Like
Hmm.
blah blah blah, right? That
Hmm.
was really I love how you put that because I hadn't quite thought of it in that way as
Hmm.
to also why there is such a bigger influence on or just not an influence but a more what it feels like yes we're just talking about astrology more also just a more it's interesting to me that they say with every generation I want to maybe I do not have these facts correct so you'll have to forgive me it is Pisces season I am just talking out of my ass I'm allowed it's
Yeah,
my season I'm allowed
you're allowed.
and I'm gonna also do this during all the season. Okay. Anyway, but I want to say that like I'm pretty sure this is correct. That like every generation every newer generation is more removed from like religion in the sense of like
That makes sense.
textbook Bible
Yeah.
religion, right? And like they talk about, it's just always been a really funny um like the younger generation needs to get back into church, like, you know, we grew up with this like almost being like hated on, or, and again, I grew up in the South, we grew up in the South, so this could have been something I was maybe more hearing from the old birds around us, but like I always remember it's like back, you know, this idea that things are getting nastier, uglier, or like worse or more negative or more hateful because less people are going to church. And it's really beautiful, I feel like, for this for an example, I think church in the textbook Bible sense, I want to be very clear too, again, growing up in the South, you get a lot of Southern Baptists. And it was going to church that made me fall out of my own love of church. Like it
Same. Yeah.
was, you know, like, and so I always found that interesting to hear the older generation speak of it in that way of like change. And I, you know, of it being this bad thing when I was felt like I was watching my peers and so much of our generation fall out of something because it was so negative. It was because of how negative church was, all the strict rules, things that just weren't, you know, and I at the same time now feel like I'm watching so many more of my peers in our generation while still far removed and away from, again, textbook religion, get more into spirituality as an umbrella term. It's been a
Yeah,
really interesting thing to fucking see.
totally.
And experiencing that myself as well. Like I'm also extra biased in that because this is something I'm going through. Um, and again, I think I've shared this on the podcast before, Heather, but when we talk about like, you know, your first 7 years, that 7 year cycle, age 7 is when I made the conscious personal decision that my relationship with whoever upstairs was mine and no
Yeah.
one else's.
Yeah.
And that and I remember I fell out of love of church, but I didn't, but like it's, I think that's more what I mean. It's like our generation got away from the church, not away from spirituality. And it's, yeah, I just remember thinking, oh, like this, you know, the world's going to hell and everything's so nasty and bad is how it was presented to me, and I'm watching that just simply be quite the opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Just like
Mhm.
I don't know. It's just a really beautiful thing. If I had heard me, even I think like in high school or like my earlier years of college when I was really like a declared atheist, now
Mhm.
consider myself like agnostic, I probably would have rolled my eyes. But
Yeah, me
but
too.
there's been no Kool-Aid to drink. This has been my own. I just think so much of
Yeah.
spirituality has become the individuals. And
Yes.
it's just interesting. It feels like we've all met up here now again, like
Yeah. Yeah.
through the year. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
just really special to
It's
me.
yeah, it's very
And
Saturn and
that Pluto, yep. Or sorry,
well,
go ahead.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's very Pluto and Scorpio, but it's as you're talking, I was thinking it's very Saturn and Pisces also. And Saturn spends about like 3 years in a sign, so it's more people within our 3 year age group
Right.
that have that. But also Saturn is in Pisces right now, and I was just thinking, like, is there anything? Have these themes been in the like collective recently, like since 2020? Or I guess it was last year that it moved since like 2022, 2023 has has there been more of an emphasis on like spirituality or more of a conversation about like religion versus spirituality? I guess like I don't know. I'm trying to think of like a specific example, but maybe that's something for me to research and bring back on a new episode.
Yeah, no, but I also I hate how much I honestly do reference TikTok. Like I know how I sound and I
No,
know
it's
that
like
there
how
are
I reference Reddit all the time. It's just like a platform to get information.
where the fuck else is our generation supposed to talk to each other with the like these big ideals and
Yeah,
like
yeah.
and like what feels almost like a big classroom discussion, and in
Mhm.
ways that I feel so sad that generations before us didn't necessarily get to do in the
Yeah.
same way.
Yeah.
When is our when has a generation ever been able to connect with their own generation like this across the fucking world as well, not just in your classroom or your exact like vicinity. Like I
Mm-hmm.
think this Pluto generation that we're a part of, or excuse me, this Pluto and Scorpio generation that we're a part of, mixed with the fact that in our Saturn return years, Aquarius, or excuse me, Pluto has now also moved into
Aquarius.
Aquarius.
Yeah.
Like,
Which most people don't experience in their lifetimes. And yeah.
and the last time we did big energetic changes. Something else I wanted to add real quick, Heather. There was something I think we're going to really start to see art. I hope it's very like how you're bringing up with Saturn return. Um, like the last time Pluto was in Aquarius, I feel like we saw a lot of art reference the times. And I think we're slowly moving into that. And I think the next 20 years, we're going to really see the art shift
Art
in a
as a
way.
social,
Yeah, I
what's the word?
hope. I
A
hope.
means toward
Yeah.
social issues and awareness, like
Yeah.
God, I can't talk. But yeah.
No, but you're as someone else who cannot talk, I'm like you're saying all the right things that I'm like also not articulating, but I just
No,
really think we're going to start to see a big shift
and
in.
that's yeah. That's so
Yeah,
Aquarius. Aquarius like
right?
is one of the most creative signs and also uh is so focused on progressing humanity and yeah, like looking at society from a outside perspective and looking at things out of the box and trying to progress shit. And yeah, I'm like, I really think that we're all fucking sick of all the fucking reboots. And I've been seeing so much lately about like art is dead. Like, can we just like take a fucking risk rather than just posting some bullshit on Netflix? And that combined with AI, um, I think like yes, I totally predict that like art is going to have a resurgence and like the quality and like human value of it is going to be emphasized
Yeah,
hopefully in the next
hopefully.
decade.
Yeah. I just yeah, there's a again, this shit moves in cycles, right? Um every generation, I don't know. It just does feel like this is your I just really cannot get past how you like you really have blown my mind, Heather, with the like we're at the age where we have more say. And what an interesting alignment of like a lot of our generation being in their Saturn return like window as we enter this new a brand new big age for the next 20
Mhm.
years. Pluto is going to be in Aquarius.
Mhm.
Just, not to bring it down again, but with like global warming, we've now crossed into what they're referring to as global boiling. And it's like while we've been saying this and while we should have worked on something for quite a while, I think it's like, well, now we're at a place where we have to focus on that. We have to do
Yeah.
something about that.
Yeah.
If we want a future, it is up to
Right.
us. And we're at a place where we do have like we need to be taken more seriously. We need to make real change. That's also just one fucking example on the list. But the just overall connectiveness right now of even if we're all not quite vibing and able to connect on a higher vibration, so to speak, because of natural issues keeping us in a lower one, I still feel like we're getting together on a lower one because we all want to go higher, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
still a connectiveness there. And I
Mhm.
don't think we're just in this cesspool of bullshit. We want
Mhm.
change. Like it's
Mhm.
not our generation is not just sitting here complaining and trying to stew in our own shit. Like it's taking there are bigger collective movements underway for sure. And people talking about bigger, it just does feel like, and again, I don't know if it's Pisces season. I don't know if it's things that are curated to me because of what I engage with, of course.
No, but
Obviously,
it
that's
really
part of it.
feels like it. I
But
mean,
it's like everywhere.
even
Yeah.
the celebrities, like, yeah, it's crazy. It's I think so in the forefront right now. I mean, I'm not even on TikTok, but I feel like just pulling
Yeah.
up you yeah,
Yeah. No, it's a
it's
beautiful
exciting.
It's exciting. And not even from a place of like, we're going to brainwash them, Heather. We're going to get them all into
Yeah,
astrology.
no,
Like,
no,
I
it's
think this
just
is why people love talking about astrology as a whole. Like, it's a connective, it's a human connection.
and it's deep. It's not
There's
it
so many
like is a
realms,
reminder that there's more to life than the
so
fucking
much.
superficial fucking money chasing bullshit.
This is a multi layered dip, folks. Grab your chips. All right. We'll see you at the party.
Hmm.
It's got millions of delicious layers to it, baby. Yeah, I don't know. And that's what it's like. There's just plenty of dip and chips and come one, come all. Let's sit
Hmm.
around and let's discuss, let's chat, let's fucking do something. We gotta do something. We're at our wits' end on
Hmm.
so many levels. What
Hmm.
other
Hmm.
option do we have but to fucking come together and like
Hmm.
figure this shit out? That the ones above us can't. They never, like, I don't know. I just do. It is interesting too because I know that, like, and again, speaking from a much more local perspective on things, a lot of issues when I like in the world, yes, on our in our country alone, yes, of course, but I do think the overall talk is less that we are divided and more about getting united. And I think again, like on a human collective, like an overall bigger, much bigger than obviously, which I mean, not to say more important or much bigger than local politics, for example, or like local issues and so many issues just within our vicinity alone. But like, just as a bigger overall, it just feels like humanity is so interested in being human right now. Like, I just, and
Right.
like in a good way. Like,
Yeah,
I do
yeah.
mean that, like, in a we should be way. And it is just funny because, again, technology's never been more advanced, and yet the drive for human to fucking humanness, I also feel like has never been more.
Doesn't that make sense? That like and there's
Right.
something so Aquarius about that. Like they say Aquarius like rules technology and technological advancement, but in order to like bring us back to like in order to make our human lives better and to hopefully connect yeah, like I
Like for not the purpose of becoming robots ourselves, in
right.
order and for the purpose of, yeah, the sake of humanity. Yeah, I really do. It is just interesting. And again, I know I'm speaking from a TikTok a lot, but again, that's like a huge platform, and where that in a place that you can, when have we ever just been able to sort of see what's going on across the world casually?
Right.
Like you could with, I don't know, man. I don't know, man.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
Maybe I'm getting too third eye with it all, but I just do, I can't get past how like big, and again, I know I'm speaking from a TikTok perspective, but like social media in general. And also the what's working about social media and what isn't. Seeing apps that have been popular for years die off because they're not authentic.
Yeah, it's all
It's
about
not like.
fucking ads and influence. I know.
So again, it's like it's interesting that we're in the most advanced technological era we've ever been in, the most social media apps we've ever had, and yet I'm watching a lot of shit die off because it's not authentic, and it's like, again, it's missing its humanity. It's a
Mm-hmm.
beautiful thing to sort of see that balance again, because what we've been told our whole lives is that the more advanced technology becomes, the worse it's going to be for humans. The less human this world's going to be. And again, it's been a beautiful thing to watch our generation take that and not do that. Like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
the same way it was like moving away from religion is going to make this place more hateful and worse and weird. And it's like, or less human. And again, it's been a beautiful thing that's been thrust upon us, and not the route I feel in which our generation has
Oh
taken. And it's
yeah,
actually
no.
not that proof was not in that pudding actually at all.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know. Yeah, and
Yeah.
like, again, we're at an age where it's like all the shit we've been told, we're now at a place where we can't be told things really anymore. We're gonna kind of just see how this plays out now. And because a lot of shit we've been told has been fucking bullshit.
Yeah,
Has been fucking bullshit. It's
that's
been
also so
inauthentic.
It's also so Aquarius and Scorpio, like, well, Pluto and Scorpio being like suspicious of things and being like, but what's the like dark underbelly of this? Like, I could see our generation being the ones who are like, okay, but politics like is seedy, right? Or like, come on, like, there, what are the
Right.
secrets here? Like, what's being kept from us? Like,
Yeah.
um,
Just yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I'm
yeah.
just really, really I'm like hands up. I'm letting go. I'm like just very trusting, I feel like, of this new era we find ourselves in astrologically.
Yeah, and I
Like,
don't think it's going to come without its challenges
of
and
course.
obstacles, but totally, I think I'm excited. I How lucky are we that we get to live in a time where we get to experience Pluto going through Aquarius and yeah,
And be
only
here
every
for it.
200 years. Like
Yeah.
that's so sick.
Yeah.
Also scary because I have planets in Aquarius, and when a Pluto conjuncts your planets, I was thinking about that the other day. Like some people never have to deal with that, and I'm gonna deal with it at 40, but bring it on. But like,
It's just, yeah. And again, when we think about where we are as humans on the planet in the grand scheme of everything, and then how this lines up with these huge energetic changes, these huge, like, not that we know the future, but just like we can look at the past astrologically, we can look at the future astrologically. And again, it's just interesting when we make these observations, all the big, big energetic movements that take place at the same time. Like with, yeah, like just again, it's just from the moment of 2020, obviously, a major fucking shift. But you're telling me that's just coincidental that we had this huge, major fucking societal shift right before we astrologically up level in a major shift? Like, come on. That's just
mm-hmm,
coincidence. Come on.
mm-hmm,
All things to also occur. The major issues that were also brought up besides the issue of the pandemic itself, all the
mm-hmm.
issues that brought up on the side of that, all the ways we were able to really focus and look at major drastic changes, and then we got to pause to extra look at them, or a forced stop, and y'all want to try to just keep the wheel spinning.
I
Absolutely.
know. Isn't that crazy too
It's
that
over.
the
Like Pluto
pandemic,
has entered Aquarius. It's
yeah.
over for y'all. Sorry. Go
Isn't
ahead,
it
Heather.
crazy too though that Saturn entered Aquarius when the pandemic was happening and it like that was sort of like the bridge toward Pluto entering Aquarius that gave us like a taste of what the themes that we need to like deal with. I don't know.
A
Like the fact
long
that
pause.
a
The
pause that has to do with like
a potent
community
taste. Yes.
and also
Yes.
our relationship with the man with society like
With
yeah.
technology, with being alone and also together alone. Like
Mhm.
just so the constant reminder of to the pandemic of like you had to spend so much time alone, but weirdly you were so not alone, as
Yeah,
everyone was
it's
simultaneously
so
alone and going through the
Aquarius.
same thing. Is that
Mhm.
not so fucking symbolic of what it feels like we're doing right fucking now? How we
Mhm.
are all like all thinking the same way, but in a place where it's like it's yeah, you're telling me that's fucking coincidence. No, the shit's in the stars. Don't get me
Mhm.
going.
Mhm.
Listeners, don't get me going. Don't make me yell.
I love it when you yell.
It's Pisces season. I'm gonna get vocal. I'm gonna get loud. It's Pisces season.
Yes.
No, it is just yeah, I'm here for it. I really fucking am. What a beautiful time this is to reflect, um, to internalize and to move forward, huh?
Mhm. Mhm.
And with that, Heather, shall we?
Yeah.
Well, I just am excited about this chart, Heather.
So excited. I've been wanting to cover her for such a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm pretty sure we've done both our Olivia, and maybe did have we not done this chart with a double in the past? Sure. Anyways, regardless, I'm
Why do
excited.
I feel like not? But I maybe oh
But
God.
regardless, if we're returning to it or it's fresh, it's
Yeah,
exciting.
I mean, I just love her so much.
She, listen, raised me. She will always be the queen of late night in my eyes. Folks, the one and only Chelsea Handler. And I remember, I think in college, Heather, we went down like the list of like people with my sign when I was really, really first learning about astrology. And then I think naturally I wanted to connect that to like who was famous and has
Yeah,
like that
yeah.
sign. And when I found out Chelsea Handler was a Pisces, ooh, that was like money. That was money.
Yes.
Um, because she really raised me. I love this bitch.
She's
Um,
such a Pisces. She's so like you can tell like caring about humanity and like has a big heart and just like for like collective issues also. But is also like so embracing of being like kind of messy and like, just totally herself and
yeah,
like
yeah.
I love her so much. Us
She Oh, go ahead. Go ahead,
I was just gonna
please.
say, especially that Netflix special where she like does ayahuasca and she like examines like arranged marriage and like all this shit. That to me was like, you are Pisces. I vibe with you so much. Like,
Yes.
so funny.
She Well, and I remember like there, yes, because underneath Chelsea, I do feel like has a hard exterior as she's gotten a little older, and
Hmm.
like her Netflix show was so fun because it wasn't in front of a live audience, and you in like my biggest complaint of Chelsea lately was that I wanted it to be longer. I remember constantly watching that show and wishing it was longer
Hmm.
because, and it was a late night like cable television show that
Yeah.
had commercials and had cuts, and I know that she had to like be good about keeping the
Yeah.
time, but it was so fun to get to see her a little older, a little wiser in her Netflix
Hmm.
special. um because honestly, I remember being surprised she was a Pisces because she did strike me as Earth. Like, or there was a, she has a groundingness there,
The moon and
which,
rising.
which well, as we're discussing her chart. So, folks, Chelsea Handler is a Virgo moon and a Virgo rising mixed
Hmm.
with that Pisces sun. Oh, honey. Like, again,
Hmm.
she does like, my favorite part, like I forget who came on the show, anyone who came on the show. I love that Chelsea was like, all right, let's skip the bullshit. Let's get to it. This is what people
Yeah.
like. Let's talk about this like huge elephant thing in the room, because
Hmm.
I love that she never, it felt like she never feared that. And but it also wasn't for it to me, never felt like a place from her like, I'm want to put you on blast for ratings, which like I feel like some talk show hosts, that's what it feels like. There's
Yeah.
times I feel like I'm watching a talk show host or someone interview someone, and it does feel like so many of the questions that they're asking are for ratings, for a clickbait, for a, we know that's going to sizzle and pop when the media gets a hold of it, or and
Yeah.
I think that's why I loved like Chelsea lately too. It really did feel like she was more like, I want to connect. Like I want one-on-one connection. I want to understand
Yeah.
you. I want to like
Yeah.
actually be humans on this. Like
Right.
I just, yes, she has such a down to earthness about how she presents herself, how she comes across.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then, yes, that's also why her Netflix was show was so special. It got to be so much longer. We got to like
Mhm.
see her be funny, but also see her like give a shit. And
Mhm.
one thing I want to add too, real quick, she is in my mind every time I go out to eat or when I'm tipping anywhere, because I'll never forget on Chelsea lately when this like when she said she just did like a full, I forget what, they were doing, like it was like her circle table, she had comedians
Yeah,
out
yeah,
and they
yeah.
all do like their discussions, which I love. And I love how much she like would sit back and just laugh and like observe a lot of like, she's, and then
She's
it would
always doing that. Yeah,
add
yeah.
her little quips.
I
Yeah,
love
but
it too. Yeah.
I like her laughing at something is what I, when I knew something was funny, like she
Uh-huh.
just such a huge part of like, I feel like my comedic upbringing, and just like, again, girls didn't really have, I hated watching David Letterman with my dad. I was just like, what is this old guy saying that has anything to do with me?
So
Chelsea was such
buttoned
a,
up and like
Mhm.
fucking ugh.
It was like Chelsea's on late night, the girlies are having Diet
Yeah.
Cokes, because I was a lot younger. Um, but she full pivots to the camera like after they're talking about something, I think on the circle, and she's just like, it's a very direct like, if you do not have 20% to tip wait staff, you do not go out to eat. Like, and then
Yes.
she got like a huge clap break, and I was like, oh, like I just remember watching that and being like, I think my mom maybe only tips 15, or like, growing up in the South, that she, I think the whole conversation was that percentage has changed. Like it's not 15 anymore,
Mm.
it's
Mm-hmm.
20%. And if you do not have 20%, then you have no business tipping. And
Hell
I remember
yeah.
that being a huge, like, and then I entered, once I entered the world of going out to eat and learning how to tip, I just always, because of her, never not tip 20%. Then I became, I started working in the food industry myself and was like, oh my God, y'all have not seen the Chelsea Lately episode, have you?
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
she was coming from a place of, she worked in restaurants, and
Right.
everyone fucking should. It should be the law that at one point you work in a serving industry where you have to like wait on people in some respect.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Totally.
yeah, and like learning the how much like tips really make or break, your paycheck
Yeah.
that week. Like, and it
Mm-hmm.
anyways, that
No,
was
but
huge.
I
Go
love
on.
that. That's what I love about her. Like you
She's been fighting for rights her whole life.
yeah, and to like just do it in such a like kind of natural off the cuff way. Like you never see fucking Jimmy Fallon or like any of these late night hosts being like passionate and opinionated or saying something that is like authentic to them just like
It was
freely.
not a
Like
discussion. She was
right.
telling her audience and the
Yeah,
fans, like,
that's
if you're watching this, this is what it is.
I
And
love
it
her
was,
so
I
much.
exactly that way. She's such a, it was such a, yeah. Again, I wish she was on television still in that way, because I honestly feel bad for so many. Again, the fact that we haven't really ever had a solid woman late night host. Like we have these, like for years, we've just had these fucking straight old white men on
And it feels
TV
so
doing late
produced
night.
and commercial and yeah.
Right. I loved Chelsea. I just, I hopefully but surely we're gonna be slowly moving into more women being on late night. If late
Yeah.
night is still gonna be a thing, like it just chooses to still be,
Yeah.
I do think we're moving into seeing more women on talk shows, and like, but specifically late night. I remember also thinking, like there was a difference between Chelsea lately and Ellen. And Ellen, a lot
Oh
of Ellen's
yeah.
brand was very like, we're gonna dance and I'm here for the girlies. In that, I really feel like if there's anyone who's gonna tell a man what to do, it's gonna be Chelsea fucking Handler. And
Oh
he's gonna
yes.
listen. And he's
Yes.
gonna listen. Like
Yes.
she just, yes, she was so what
Bold
late
and
night needed and still
yeah.
does. And yes,
Yeah.
and also like yeah, a way, yeah, just did so much in the span of her show's time, I think, than any other late night show has done for probably women anywhere. So like,
Totally. I agree. I agree. She doesn't get enough credit. Um
she's amazing.
yeah, and just very everything we're saying is just so very Pisces. And what you
Yeah.
said about her like loving connection and I don't know, I saw that so much in her Netflix special also, where she often, my favorite thing was when she would like invite her friends over for dinner to like discuss, the topic of the episode, and it was just so like people, yeah, friends shooting the shit. It was like very Pisces to me. But also in her natal chart, she has a heavy seventh house emphasis, which if you
Mm.
have your sun opposite your rising, like Chelsea does, then you always have a sun in the seventh house, which is the house
Ah.
of one-to-one relationships. Um,
Mhm.
but not only that, she also has Jupiter there in the seventh and Pisces, and Venus almost in there in the eighth, but Jupiter being like the lucky, expansive, like planet, and yeah, also the sun where she shines. It's so cool that I think like her relationships and just connecting with people and sharing ideas feels like such a big part of her art. Um,
Yes. Well, and sorry, Heather, not
no, no, yeah, I
I
was finished.
want to hear you continue, of course. That is so interesting that you say that, because yes, she started out as a lot of late night hosts do, in comedy, and specifically stand-up comedy. And to me, like stand-up comedy as an art form, the only way to make people laugh, obviously being a good joke teller is one. There are so many different forms to the stand-up art form. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
some stand-ups really thrive. They're so good at the 1-2 punch. They're
Mhm.
some stand-ups you just want to listen to because that was just such a great joke and they're such a
Mhm.
great writer. Then there are stand-ups I feel like who draw from experience, who share their own personal stories. And that to me is, you know, who Chelsea was. It was from
Yeah.
a like her stand-up style was very listen to this fucked up hilarious story,
Right.
put your and like and that relatability, that
Yeah.
like trust is how you feel like you know a stand up and that like you can trust them and like they're a it's like I'm on stage with a microphone reminding you that I'm human with the human
Yeah.
experiences. That's all
Uh-huh.
it is. That's like essentially what it is. And so for that, for to already be successful in stand up, that you get to a place where you get an agent and then let alone a fucking late night television show down the line, that's huge, which tells me she's that is where she shines. And then, you know, her books, like those are all like personal stories and usually
Yeah.
always about her life and they're funny. And it's from a place of by let me not only relate to you as a human to human being, but let me also make you laugh because isn't this shit so stupid what we're doing out here? Like, is kind of the overall vibe. And that's why I do exactly. It's so interesting to hear that about her birth chart because yeah, that is what got her literally recognized and then has continued her career. What is her just like relating and being her fucking self, letting that
Yeah.
just shine on its own. Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
her personality is already it's the juice, right?
And
It's the yeah.
yeah, and I'm surprised more comedians don't like totally tap into that, or like you said, there are very many different forms and styles and whatever, and like but I feel like water signs tend to be comedians so often, or a lot of comedians happen to be water signs, and it makes sense because like you're also just like using the emotions of the room, or like you have it is like to make someone laugh is to like uh yeah, have an intuitive sense of like emotion
Right.
and taking care of the room and the audience, and yeah. But she really
Interesting.
does take it to like another human level. I think there's also a lot of earth sign comedians, like Louis CK is like super earthy, and that's like a different, that's like, or Jerry Seinfeld,
Those
the
are the bad
Taurus.
comedians.
Right. But it's also like their style is less like warm and human and more like this is what's
Me.
interesting about day to day, or like like the earthy, like, isn't it? You know, I don't know. I'm not
I
explaining it
also
well,
think
but
it's a little more me focused. It's a little
yeah.
more selfish. There's like a balance of sharing your stories to like relate and to maybe get you know or also just to put like yourself down to laugh at a common like you're using yourself as the sacrificial lamb of the thing we're all allowed to
Yeah.
laugh at. I
Yeah.
think that's also like a fine line. And I'll yeah fuck Louis CK on
I know.
that note.
I know. I
But no
know.
and I know you don't matter. I'm like but not fuck all Virgo comedians or I mean
Right. Right.
not fuck all earth sign comedians.
Hmm.
But yeah exactly I think that there's a little more I don't know. It is interesting. And then yeah, that's just it too. Like some comedians, the art form is really interesting, like comedy as a whole, because that you'll have people who are really good writers for someone else, and it's
Mm.
like you could be a really good joke writer for yourself, but then like a lot of times comedians who write for shows, it's because they're you know how to write in someone else's voice. But and for Chelsea's whole thing, I do really feel like her stand up is her voice, her storytelling,
Yeah.
which is why she is just really good at her own what am I trying to say? Like her own brand.
Totally.
It's just
Totally.
something I think it's not something she has to think about. There's no marketing scheme there. It's just like I'm gonna be
Totally.
Chelsea. Go ahead, please.
Also, duh, I'm looking at her chart and realizing her moon is right on the ascendant. So if you think of the ascendant as like the first impression you give off, or like how you enter situations, just like the most superficial layer of yourself that you're like
Right.
projecting outward onto the world, having your moon right on it is like your emotions, and such a core part of your being is also intertwined with that ascendant, like projecting outward and then opposite the sun. Like, of course, she's going to be so herself, and like being herself is so a part of what she's doing, and how she comes across naturally is just like the moon and the sun. And yeah,
Her
yeah.
chart is wild.
Oh
As
my
I'm
God,
looking
it's
at the
so
actual
over
map
the
right
place.
now,
It's so
it's
wild.
literally it's everywhere. Oh
Mm-hmm.
my God.
And it's
Like,
also cool. Yeah. No, there's
but it also
planets
it
all
almost
over
looks
it.
perfect. Like it almost looks like it's like one of those
Symmetrical and
spools. Yeah, like
yeah,
where you do the
yeah.
spool thing and the paint, like, you know what I'm
Yes. Yeah.
talking about?
Yes, yes,
That
yes.
literally looks like you took Chelsea Handler's we took Chelsea Handler's chart and just swung it underneath, like it really
The
is.
perfect web. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah,
Well, and
totally.
it's like again, I think that there's a common misconception in the realm of comedy in general that because someone is funny or like at the forefront, like humor is the basis, that this is another reason I loved her actual Netflix show, because we got to see Chelsea go a little deeper, which I feel like the depth was always there. That's like
Yeah.
Chelsea lately. I always remember being like, damn it, they're too
And
short of episodes.
I think she was pissed that she couldn't go deeper into shit on
Right.
Chelsea. I think she's talked about that.
Yes. And well, and it's network television and
Yeah,
like
it's
Netflix,
different.
she got to have like, the ratings are all like different. And
Right.
exactly. And we talked about this too, Heather, like Chelsea, um, it sounds like has talked about this herself, where comedy was almost a life source. She when she was young, I want to say like 12, because I believe she is the youngest. She's got a pretty big family, but her eldest brother was died in a freak hiking accident, like just accidentally literally fell to his death. So like she grew up and she was pretty young when that happened, and grew up, with this very heavy cloud.
Tragedy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really fucked up tragedy over her family. And I feel like we sometimes see this with comedians. Um, Either it's sometimes a lot of times the comedy is sort of a life force, or it's not too uncommon for comedians to have been through really heavy shit. It's
Mm-hmm.
not the blueprint. You don't have to have only gone through
Right.
really heavy shit, but um I do think it's like more often than not, people don't realize that it's a life force for someone.
A healing
It was,
mechanism.
yes, like a survival technique. And
Yeah.
you were saying like she talked about how like that's maybe where a lot of her humor started coming from, was
Yeah.
because there was
Yeah.
such a dark cloud and dark energy with her family that she was just trying to always lighten,
Yeah.
do what
Make
she
them
could to
laugh
light.
and
And yeah, which is
yeah.
like that alone is such an abstract, if that's sort of your initial relation to, comedy. And honestly, she probably was always a little funny, but for her to
Yeah.
even just like have that perspective in relation to comedy, like that's deep. Like
Yeah.
that's a very deep well, if I may, of
Totally.
like, I don't know, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't,
Yeah.
I really feel like this chart, especially mixed in with the tragedy of that, is like extra,
Yeah.
like, wow, you can just see the depth in this chart. Uh
Totally. Neptune in the fourth is so indicative of like having to experience that depth and maybe even loss in the realm of family and your background and history. And it's the house of Cancer, and Neptune can be tough.
mm,
But yeah, also Mercury in Aquarius. I feel like she really, especially now that she has more freedom, like really tries hard to talk about like Aquarian issues or like larger
mm-hmm,
societal humanity
yeah.
things. Um, and yeah, what was I gonna say? I also recently learned that this doesn't really have anything to do with her planets, although maybe I can figure out a link. But she, I guess, like, didn't want to, or like know she wanted to be a comedian. She like took a Toastmasters class or like a speech class. I think she said that
Ah.
she had to like do that, or did she get in trouble and have to do something for community service? I don't know. But she like had stage fright apparently and had to give like a speech class
mm,
thing. And she like turned it into, yeah, like I guess she was just like really funny, and the person in charge was like, you should be a comedian." And she was like, "Ha." But then
but
that like
then
led to, yeah, her
that
exploring it more.
that buzz, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really, yeah, she's got depth. She sure
Yeah.
does. And then like again too, last thing I want to say, like just the fact, like while Virgo and Pisces, right, we have water and earth, but the fact that those are her big three and then are all on that same theme, like underlying theme, because those are like the sister signs,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Virgo
yeah.
and
The same
Pisces.
axis. Mm-hmm.
Like that
Opposites.
really is like she's just like in tune. Like I just feel like weirdly as like sporadic and like all over the place as her chart looks, it's like a perfect cosmic setup for
Yeah,
precisely, I mean, you could apply this to everyone, but like precisely what works for her and
totally.
how she shines and how she relates. I love it.
Totally, totally, totally. Yeah, it's a really cool chart. Um,
She's the best. Chelsea, come on the pod. My God, can you
please,
imagine?
please. I feel like we'd be friends with her.
I want to like do shrooms with her in a
I
park.
know. Oh my God. I do too. I do too.
And
Cool
with that,
human.
Heather, shall we let the listeners know what is to come this week?
Let's. It's an interesting March. The second
Madness,
half of
March
March,
Madness.
March Madness, the second half of March leading into April is like big astrology, big
Oh,
energy.
yeah.
We enter eclipse season. There's lots of like the biggest events of the year astrologically are happening like March and April. But
I'm trying to drive to this total solar eclipse. I'm telling you,
right, me too, me too.
but
Nicola was
it's
like,
so
we could
far.
go. I know, I honestly might if I can figure it out. But yeah, I would love we should do it.
I
But
know. Go on.
anyway,
Sorry.
the
In
first week
time.
of March is like a little less intense, but still maybe like inklings of more chaotic energy than we've experienced so far. But March 1st, so like right now there's this thing where the Pisces sun, Saturn has been in Pisces for the past year. It's going to be there for another 2 years. And so the sun, when it enters Pisces, connects with that Saturn that's been sort of like moving slower there. And then Mercury at the same time is traveling very close to the sun. So we have this Pisces, Mercury, Sun, Saturn, Cazimi, they call it, or like conjunction, where they're all three like on top of each other. And
Oof.
I've been feeling it like there's this sense of like, communication is like maybe restrictive or like you want to move forward in a certain way but you can't, but like I don't know, you want more spiritual depth but there's like Saturn there. I That's happening this week and but on March 1st that conjunction also forms a trine to Jupiter and Taurus. And Taurus is very grounding, so that's nice. And they're saying that it's a good time to maybe have like serious discussions, to be honest, be sincere. So that's happening
Hmm.
March 1st. And then March 3rd, Venus and Aquarius squares Uranus and Taurus. And this happens a couple of times a year, but Uranus being the innovative planet of Aquarius, connecting with Venus that's currently in Aquarius, and Venus being the planet of like love and attraction and
Right.
finances and all that stuff, how we feel pleasure in our lives. There could be like new insights or inventive ways of gaining pleasure, or maybe you come up with a new idea of how to make money, or I don't know, go on a new date with your significant other that is like a weird thing you haven't done together before, or good
Hmm.
energy for that. Um,
Interesting. Okay. Okay.
so yeah, it's pretty chill. Next week there's more going on because we have a new moon in Pisces, I think next week, or we're like working toward that. Maybe that's like March 10th. It's actually probably in like 2 weeks, but
Oh, yeah. I think it is a little. Yes. I think it's in 2 weeks.
yeah, further
I
along in
marked it.
March we have more going on, but right now it's
And then, yeah, big. I know that, yeah, everyone's talking about the total. We'll talk about this closer to time too.
I
But on
know the
April 8th,
eclipse.
it's like, yeah, total
Mm-hmm.
solar eclipse. It's like a big one. The
Mm-hmm.
path of totality. I want to go to it so bad, but
No.
the closest spot is still like a 6 hour drive. And I'm like, but we'll see
Who knows?
because that's a very big one again. And then all of this symbolically happening in the year of the dragon. There's just,
Bless you.
it's a,
Bless you.
ooh. We'll have to cut that, Heather.
Yeah.
It's just a loaded time. It's a
Mm-hmm.
very loaded, energetically charged up, exciting time.
Yeah.
And it's the leaning in.
Oh no. Oh no.
What's going on?
Oh no.
Three in a row.
Spring is coming.
It really is, though. I've been just like randomly sneezing, and it's
Mm-hmm.
also getting a little warmer. Um,
We love it.
Anyways, with that, gorgeous. Gorgeous. I'm here for the waves. As always,
Yeah.
there's always got to be a little analogy, but I'm just sort of like I'm on my stomach and my feet are up and I'm letting the waves push me around on my boogie board, you know?
Yeah.
It's and there's times it's a little scary and I fall off, but I just, you got the strap on the ankle.
Mm-hmm.
You're always connected and
Mm-hmm.
we'll cruise on into the shore the next wave and take a little breather if we have to, right?
It's
Like,
true. It's true. We're supported.
but we're
We're
riding.
one with it all. We're riding.
It's
Yeah.
ebb and flow season, y'all. It's Pisces. All you can do is lean in. And it's a beautiful time to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be doing that if anyone needs me.
I love you so much.
I love you, Heather. I love you, listeners. We love you, Pisces season. Love you, Chelsea
Yes.
Handler.
Yes.
And we'll
Infinite
see y'all right back
abundance.
here next week. Infinite abundance. Mwah. Bye.
Bye.